Welcome back to the Red Path. Today, we're going to do a deep dive into Kharn the Betrayer. Anyone not familiar with Kharn is missing out on some of the most iconic and awesome lore from the entire 40k universe. There's honestly so much information out there between codexes, supplements and black library books that I cannot possibly go into all of it. In short, however, Kharn was a Terran-born inductee of the 12th Legion and is used as the vehicle to set the entire tone of the World Eaters by asking the question how they are supposed to collect skulls for the initiation. His pre-Astartes origins are not thoroughly developed like some other characters, but his earlier years, at least during the Heresy, are very well documented. As a captain of the 8th Assault Company and a fairly low-ranking officer overall, it is befitting for his fate that he was the first World Eater to survive and eventually somewhat handle Angron, who had slain numerous heroes of the Legion prior to assaulting Kharn in the depths of the Conqueror. He would later also become the first Marine to successfully take the nails and survive, in what is one of the most amazing pieces of narrative device in Angron Slave of Nuceria, as shown on the screen right now. In short, the nails are hammered in, the page simply turns into a bloodstain, and then Kharn wakes up to a room full of eviscerated bodies. His later exploits leave lots of room for interpretation, and with the evolving state of the canon, it's hard to truly know what did and what did not happen. But it's certainly possible, in my opinion, and this is simply theory crafting here, that Kharn is a perpetual. I've talked about it before, but the 12th was never meant to be a legion of savages, but rather a force of assertive champions of justice, much closer to the salamanders than the space wolves. Angron's nascent healing abilities and the restorative psychic powers of the early World Eaters librarians indicate a different path was intended. Further, Kharn has likely died at least once and possibly twice or more, and yet lived to tell the tale. It is possible that innate healing or perhaps perpetuality is part of the 12th's gene seed, but to be fair, this is little more than speculation. After the Heresy, Kharn's body was rescued by those still loyal to him and the 12th, and effectively fought over as a symbol of who would lead the Legion. In a display of absolutely epic martial prowess, Kharn rises from his slumber to murder an entire squad of armed and armoured berserkers, and cement his place as an absolute badass. His bloody deeds are legendary and numerous, with a kill count that likely surpasses that of entire Loyalist chapters. He has fought and survived against Primarchs, he has bested Legion champions, he has slain more World Eaters than anyone else, perhaps barring Angron. He has tackled Titans, Knights, Greater Demons, anything and everything in the 40k universe has had its head kicked in by the Betrayer. Anyway, let's leave his backstory alone and dive into his aptitude on the table. For obvious reasons, Kharn has always been a melee-focused unit, and whether through his personal prowess or the buffs he could provide to the forces around him, combat is dizzying when the Betrayer is involved. Whilst currently fitted with a pretty lackluster HQ stat line, he does have some pretty interesting quirks. Firstly, never forget that in combat, Kharn always hits on 2s. Gorechild itself is detailed as hitting on 2s, so if an opponent is -1 to hit, or modifies your weapon skill to 6+, it doesn't matter. Kharn hits them on a 2. Second, whilst he cannot reroll hits in the fight phase, he can reroll in the shooting phase, making his permanently overcharged plasma pistol incredibly accurate. He of course does have access to Blood for the Blood God, giving him at the current time up to 15 attacks on the charge, albeit over 2 activations. Finally, and here's the proof that Kharn is 100% broken, he can have 100% accuracy in the fight phase. Trust me. Charge him in next to a squad of friendly models within an inch. Roll your hits. You rolled 3 1s? They're not misses, they hit the friendlies. As long as they are targets, Kharn always hits something. It's hilarious, it's occasionally the reason you lose the game, but it's always absolutely 40k. Okay, so as much as I love Kharn, he does have some glaring issues, and I'm going to touch on them briefly and then make some suggestions as to how I'd like to see him improved in the next codex. Firstly, his damage output just doesn't really cut it when compared to similar HQs. At a total of strength 6 with Gorechild, he still only wounds Marines on 3s and barely scratches vehicles or tougher units on 5s. In addition, the D3 damage is just bad. In a world of 2 wound Marines and abilities that reduce damage, it hurts. Next, he is too glassy for a combat HQ. T4 with a 3-up 4++, and 5 wounds is fine for like a generic Lord or Captain type model, but he definitely needs improving for sustainability in 9. So, let's discuss how I think we could ameliorate these issues without breaking Kharn and better suiting him to the edition at hand. First, abilities wise, I expect and hope he will offer reroll 1s to units within 6 inches. He may be berserk, but he's still inspiring to those crazy enough to follow him. Additionally, he should be able to throw a reroll buff on a core unit within 6 inches like Loyalists can. Even if it's full rerolls in combat only to hit some wounds, that would be fine. Other HQs can take care of shooting, but he should absolutely be able to send something into a complete frenzy. I would absolutely keep his hits friendlies on misses restriction, it fits perfectly, but to make it a reasonable risk reward, I would change Blood for the Blood God into an ability that is granted for core units that begin the fight phase within 1 inch of Kharn. So it's no longer a berserker buff natively, who should be enhanced in other ways on the datasheet, but it's something that happens when a unit is close to the Betrayer. I would also keep Gorechild at always hitting on 2s, it's not broken and it is fitting. I would however make it strength +2, so he wounds T7 on 4s, and in addition give it an inbuilt +1 to wound versus infantry, or perhaps rerolls wounds or something like that. It needs to pay off more often. -4 AP is correct. Damage wise I think flat 2 is the absolute baseline we should expect, but adding a mortal wound output on 6s would be awesome. Maybe a wound of 6 offers 2 mortal wounds in addition, or 3 that replace the normal damage like Gorefather. Kharn should murder what he touches, cost him appropriately, and he's only one model, but nevertheless every opponent should fear him. Hell, he could ignore invulnerables too. Speaking of which, his resilience. I strongly think he should remain a glass cannon, but at the moment he's a cracked and broken paper cannon, not a glass one. He should certainly gain 1 or 2 wounds, but his toughness and saves should remain more or less untouched. Honestly, and I don't know how good or bad this is, but it fits with the narrative descriptions of him fighting, I would make his invulnerable save rerollable. If he fails a 4++ invuln, he may reroll it, but any additional fails cause a mortal wound instead of the normal damage. This creates an interesting dynamic where mass small arms fire becomes more dangerous against him, as it should. But huge melee strikes or melter blasts, the Blood God is able to favour him and he is able to dodge or leap aside, as he so often does in the lore. Whilst incredibly feline in his athleticism, he does often suffer glancing wounds or burns, and so mortal wounds replacing a 6 damage melt strike seems cheeky but not awful. He would still be weak against mass 0 AP fire and would likely eschew getting cover saves, but it would take some serious aggro from high damage opponents to bring him down, as it should. Finally, he needs a useful warlord trait, one that we would genuinely consider. I would love for him to get something that's meta altering. I've mentioned it before, but perhaps if he is your warlord, add +1 or +2 to the who goes first roll off. Maybe him and up to 3 units within 6 inches can do a 9-inch pre-game move. What about something that enhances whatever our version of Doctrines is? I don't know, it needs to be something that matters though. Okay, that's it for this one. If you'd like to be involved in discussing videos and suggestions for upcoming content, check out our Patreon page and gain access to being able to directly influence what we publish. And if that's not something that interests you, that's totally cool. But we'd love to have you in the Discord at least. It's an absolute blast of memes and strategy. Okay folks, let me know in the comments how ridiculous my wish listing is and how much disappointment I should prepare for. Until next time, stay healthy, stay safe, and kill main burn.